Welcome to another episode of Streets and Scholars. This is Alex Alonso and FG. But FG is he's not here today, so I got a special guest host. I got Spider Loc in the building, man.
Alex, you know what rhyme with FG?
What's that?
SP.
Oh yeah, SP's.
Shout out to FG the General. I feel honored to have the opportunity to fill your shoes or sit in your seat this evening, and I hope I don't disappoint on delivery upon energy. Shout out to FG the General, Eastside Compton.
And to all the Streets and Scholars fan, FG will be back next week. He just had to take care of some things. No big deal. It happens sometimes.
Easy call. And
I also wanted to tell all the listeners that Streets and Scholars hit a milestone a couple weeks ago with our 30th episode. So, you know, they say it's hard for a podcast to get past the 10th episode, but we're on 30. And in fact,
salute.
SPI, you just finished your 10th episode on Facts Over Feelings. So you passed the milestone of where most people can't pass.
Hey, congratulations to you, FG. And I want to salute all my guests. I'm going to try to do a freestyle. I might miss somebody, but ODM Slim, Lauren Madison, Hitman, Lupe, my nephew Eli, the most recent today, as a matter of fact, we did the homie Brick Baby. I know I'm forgetting somebody, cuz help me out. Oh, Infant Asmo, Deuces, and we gonna salute to our 10th episode. We on our way. I don't like to keep count.
Yeah,
but good looking for letting me know that milestones.
We don't even keep count here because I realize we're on episode 32. I don't really say what episode we on, but I like to acknowledge the milestones, man.
Indeed.
So we just dropped episode 30 a couple weeks ago. So I want to thank all the Streets and Scholars listeners, man. So man, let's get right into it, man. You know what's crazy? Last episode, FG and we spoke about Reggie Wright speaking on the Mob James issue, and he was on Bomb First doing his live. And he said a couple of unsavory words about FG, but he immediately backpedaled.
I heard that shit, bro.
And said that FG was solid. But what really shocked me was a lot of people in my comments were saying that I'm trivial for even talking about this. So I just want to address this for a moment, man. Yes.
I want to just acknowledge the fact that although trivial is not the totality of our makeup, we not beyond or above delving into trivial or petty things when it's appropriate. So okay,
exactly.
So what? Yeah,
I think people expect me to always be on my scholarly tip, to always be on my journalism tip, to always be on my professional tip. But sometimes I want to talk about the petty stuff too.
Ain't nothing wrong with that. Oh my mama, because guess what? When we go into the barbershop or we at the mechanic shop or we at the park, we round parents as a coaching situation. This is the shit we talk about. Niggas don't talk about the deepest things that's on their heart when they casually converse. So while we chopping it up about what's current, I ain't got no problem with being petty from time to time.
And I didn't even think it was a petty topic because, I did a podcast with Reggie Wright Jr. for a damn near year, and we had some great Gangster Chronicles. We had some great conversations, but there were some times Reggie Wright would say some crazy things.
You know what we got to realize about Reggie? Because Reggie is a personal acquaintance of mine. I would damn near call him a friend. But the thing about Reggie is what people have to understand. There's a dynamic with Reggie that comes with people that doesn't come with nobody else. Reggie is an official ex-police. He also is a sergeant at arms, strong arm for one of the most gangster rap labels that was ever known. And then post that, he has also become a ex-con that went to federal prison.
Damn, you just did his whole resume.
Yeah. Reggie is a colorful person, bro. So whether you like everything you know about him, if you find things to disagree with him on, it's not hard to believe that because Reggie has lived on so many spectrums of our reality. The fact that he still has any level of respect from the streets and people is admirable because Cuz used to be the police.
Yeah.
So if you could balance that and then end up allegedly indicted for, interstate trafficking of illegal substances 20 years later, I got to tip my hat to your total experience, regardless of every little thing I've seen you go through. But yeah.
Yes, well, I didn't think it was a big deal. That in fact, FG is the one that told me about it. I didn't even know. He played it for me, and I said, "Hey, let's talk about it. We'll talk about it." So we talked about it, and there's been quite a few people saying that it's petty, but I think it's actually serious. In these streets when you get to name calling certain people and not really, I don't want to focus on Reggie so much, but just in general, you know, you've had a couple of some serious public debates, beefs, conflicts with people. I mean, at certain times, these words are they affect you, they impact you, because then it makes you respond, and then it can get heated.
Indeed, and I want to let you know. Also, we gonna get off Reggie, but I also often tease Reggie with the fact that police, all that, regardless, Reggie represents himself as a pyro. He don't want to admit it. He don't want to claim it. But his affiliation, his experiences, and all the shit that he went through that was on the side of gangsterism, he was family with the Pyrus. And a lot of time when he presents himself in the public, it comes across as if he's representing that car. But for him, and this is the conversations I have with Reggie when nobody's listening, so I'm comfortable discussing this on a public platform. We bounce off one another, and iron sharpens iron. And just based on Reggie's whole experience, I often advise him to do the best he can to get himself out of these gangster conversations online. So when Reggie, for whatever reason, feel comfortable calling FG for me, full general. When he call himself calling FG a bitch, you gotta respect him for retracting his statement so quickly. But I don't know as an individual if I could accept that retractment. That I don't know. We might have to go through something else, because now, Reggie, you stepped on the other line of respect. So I think it can be worked out by men without it going to something physical. But I could also understand if FG was looking for us to go through another process other than just saying my bad.
Well, obviously, FG was didn't like it, because he brought it to my attention and was like, "Why is this dude speaking like this?" But let me also say,
Do they know each other?
they never actually. No, they really don't know each other, even though they've been in the same spaces for years. You know, they all know the same people. They all grew up with the same people. FG's a little bit younger, but they all know the same circle. But Reggie Wright actually texted me after our episode dropped last Thursday, and he said he was going to issue a public apology. So does that change it for you? That not only did Reggie immediately retract the negative term, but he's willing to issue a public apology.
Yep. You know, that would do it.
That should end it, right?
I'm not bigger than that.
Yeah.
I'm not, because what else can you ask? Unless you're trying to charge a nigga, and, we're not going to go there. So you did something publicly that kind of adversely affected the way people perceive me, and I didn't deserve it. If you're man enough to go out your way to correct it, I can accept that. Definitely.
And the reason why I don't really think it's trivial, because the topic at hand is a very serious one. This dude FG did 10 years in the feds because another Pyru told on him. I don't think that could ever be taken as a trivial matter. I know people keep telling me, why you keep talking about it, But hey, he keeps talking about it.
Look, I salute you, because you don't over-represent yourself as anything other than who you are. And yet and still, when it comes to principles, and we know that you're very familiar with the law, nigga, you still stand on the integrity of that's foul. I don't understand how not only Reggie Wright is not willing to acknowledge that and stand firm on it, but Black Jesus, Timmy Rowe, cuz I don't get it. I don't get it, bro. I didn't mean to bleed these conversations into two, and I'm going to correct myself because I forgot we wasn't talking about that. But hey, Timmy, what it do, my nigga? Holla at your boy, man. You out here all bad with your little representation of that kid, boy. But yeah, get back on track, Alex. My bad.
Yeah, well, I was just saying that it's, even though some people think talking about this was a trivial thing, what Reggie said about FG, but it's all rooted in something that was very serious. You know, a brother got set up, a brother got a wire war on him for just a measly a few ounces of cocaine. I don't think anyone deserves it. Not only does
Reggie got to put some respect on the situation. Do you know when he called his case, are you familiar with whether or not he was told on?
Who, FG?
No, Reggie.
If I don't know the specifics of his weed case. Nah.
I'm gonna tell you how real it is with Reggie and me. I remember talking to Reggie for the first time in a long time, and then shortly thereafter, I received a letter in the mail saying, from the San Bernardino Sheriff Department, letting me know between this date and that date, we either were monitoring your phone or you had a conversation with somebody's phone that we were monitoring. And I was so shocked to receive this letter. And when I went through my mind about the people that I spoke to in the last 30 days, whatever the time frame the letter carried, I took a screenshot of it and sent it to Reggie. So for me to know that Reggie's on the side of the game of life, that he deserves that type of head up, and we understand that, I don't see why he's comfortable being in the public saying that if Mob James is confirmed wearing a wire, why he would disassociate himself from calling Cuz foul and saying that's between them two niggas. That's boo-boo, Reggie. You can't stand on both sides, nigga. You been to prison. You know what it feel like to be. Niggas already giving you a pass for being on the team that sent niggas to jail. You don't get judged like the average nigga by that because of your association with Suge and what you ended up getting into later. So real niggas give you a pass for that. Now that you on the opposite side of the law, nigga, you can't keep moving the goalposts for niggas that cooperated. You know what that shit mean better than everybody. That's why I don't understand why you so supportive of Back, nigga. You know Back ain't no good. Go ahead. I'll take this shit somewhere else, Alex. You know Back ain't no good. That's why he got his backside up to the world right now, twinkling his toes, twerking in the bed, face down, ass up. That was one I couldn't pass up. Go ahead, man.
All right. Well, we'll move on to the next topic, but I just want people to know that I don't talk about celebrity gossip. There's a lot of stuff I do not talk about, but I don't feel like this issue is something that doesn't deserve a brief 15, I don't know how many minutes FG and I spent on it, 15, 20 minutes talking about it. I mean, it affected FG's life. It affected his kids. It affected his family, his wife.
If you look at Gene Deal and you look at how he'll commit himself, look at Reggie Bomb first. He's created a whole platform off of one subject matter, one group. FG, man, if you got to speak about it 15 more times, bro, my ears wide open. On my mama. I know how bad that make a nigga feel.
Look,
God, I've been told on. Go ahead.
I was willing to stop talking about it. Actually, Reggie and I had a conversation. He was like, can we agree to stop talking about it? Mob James was on the phone. I actually spoke to Mob James since we talked about it. He feels a little bad that I did the interview with FG because Mob James and I were friends. But I told him at the time, I never knew this about you. And,
me either.
And I had to tell the story. He wanted me to bury a story that I felt was newsworthy. So I told the story, and I guess Mob James hates me because I did the interview with FG. Look, if FG didn't do the interview with me, he would have eventually did the interview with somebody else. It would have came out. So, but it was me, and I had no problem doing it because I wanted to give him a platform to tell the story. But I agreed not to talk about it anymore. But then here they go, Reggie talking about it the other day on Bomb First. So hey,
man. I'm gonna just say this. You have an obligation for how you establish yourself to cover every subject that's relevant to you unbiasedly. You've made it your MO to just be neutral. When these many facts come across and this is your circle of peers, can't nobody look at you foul for like observing, acknowledging, and what else is Alex Alonso gonna do? What else? Like, you fucked with dude. You are involved with analyzing these type of situations on a regular basis. He's a compadre. And now you come across this information. Guess what? I wouldn't even be comfortable sitting across from you right now had you handled it different and tried to bury it and act like it's cool.
Hey,
we couldn't even be as cool as we are, bro. I would be have to faking to tolerate this moment.
It would make me look a certain kind of way if people say, damn, you knew all along? And you was hiding this?
I'm gonna be the first to say, cause without me knowing that, and without me ever meeting Mob James, the only thing I was familiar with was a few interviews that I saw him do. I knew his name. I knew both of his brothers. And when he used to do interviews about his general perspective on the whole death row experience, Suge Knight, Tupac, I didn't know him, but I used to always appreciate saying, damn, that's the same exact story I know. He keeping it real. So when I finally got the opportunity through the Gangster Chronicles to meet Mob James, I ain't gonna lie, I appreciated that. And even through knowing him, I caught the story about when he brought the burner. I laughed. That was goofy to me. But outside of that, we politicked. We did a few episodes. I appreciated the man that he met. However, when I saw it presented that he cooperated and participated, all that went out the window.
Yeah. I
don't give a fuck about him no more. Like, I hate the fact that that's Timmy Rue's brother, but then when Timmy Rue joined the same club, it's like, damn, Timmy Rue. I don't know what to say, bro.
Yeah.
We don't talk to police. Simple.
Well, I wish bro all the best. I had a great relationship with Mob James. We was cool. We did some great episodes, and I personally
cooperated and got FG stretched out.
Yeah.
I wish him all the worst.
Well, nah, man. That was 20 years ago, and I'm sure he's a different man today.
Yep, but guess what? All the experiences and time that FG went through, he can't replace, replicate. It don't matter how long ago it was. They're just as real as they were when he lost them as they are now. My energy would never change toward the person who fucked the game and cooperated and aided in him getting that time.
Well, I look at it as just like any sin, a sin can be forgiven.
We finna get biblical, y'all.
Yeah. I believe I don't approve of anything that he did, but I think at some point in time, a brother does deserve forgiveness. But you have to admit what you did before you could be forgiven for it. And he has yet to admit what he did.
Do you think that forgiveness, just by definition, includes total restoration to whatever it was prior?
If you got the means, let's say Mob James was a multimillionaire, he would have to break FG off for those 10 years. For him not being with his kids, for a couple of his kids joining the gang, he wasn't there to stop it. When he got out, he was able to stop his younger ones from joining. His younger kids ain't in the gang. His older kids did join the gang. That's Mob James' fault. The father wasn't there to do what he would normally do. So that requires some compensation and forgiveness. And then I would say to FG, hey, he did everything he could do. Let's move on from it.
So tell me this. And this is totally hypothetical, y'all. If we all agreed that was cool and they shook hands on that, and Mob James met all those requirements, broke bread, we shook hands. If Mob James hit the corner and didn't survive that evening, would FG be wrong? Hey, no. There's no forgiveness for certain things, bro. Certain shit we gonna have to holler at after we wake up.
So you put that in the category of no forgiveness.
What? That's like you raped my mama.
But look, Jesus would forgive a murderer, and murder is worse than snitching.
And the main thing about the whole concept of Jesus is there's only one. There's never been another. There will never be another. He did it perfectly because we can't. So you try to make yourself think that you are obligated to mimic what we've learned about Jesus. You're already tricking yourself into thinking that you can fuck every female you fuck like every porn you watch. It's not going to happen. There's no such thing in our realm as replicating what we know about Jesus.
Okay.
It's not going to happen.
Okay. Well, let's agree to disagree. I believe it could be forgiven. Spider, give me another unforgivable act other than snitching on someone. Is there other
touching or violating my children or my mother?
Yeah.
Or my wife.
See, I think that the touching is a mental imbalance that is out of the control of the individual. If you like 5-year-old kids as a grown person, there has to be something biologically wrong with you to the point where you can't even blame the person.
But guess
He's
what?
wired like
Whether
that.
I blame you or not, I feel no guilt in eliminating you as a threat. Because if you're out of control,
yeah,
okay, I'm not mad at you, but guess what? The same way I'm not mad at the roaches or the ants or any invader into my personal space. I'm not mad, but I'm going to get the traps. I'm going to get the spray. I don't have to get angry to get rid of a motherfucker who's going to be a threat to my loved ones because he can't control himself. I don't have to be mad about it, but we need you out of here.
Yeah.
I think the firing squad should be somewhere reintroduced into our justice system.
Yeah, no doubt.
If you get caught on camera raping or molesting, what do we need a trial for? Even if you couldn't control yourself. I believe those people that reach the point where they can't control themselves beyond those type of urges they're beyond repair. So as a society, we need to what happens when a dog bites a child? And you know America loves dogs. Down, baby, goes the dog.
They do that for any animal that attacks. They found a mountain lion that attacks, they're going to go out there and get that mountain lion and take him down.
And it's highly understood and accepted across psychology that there's no repairing pedos. Like, you're stuck like that.
Well, I think technology will, in the future, and research will maybe one day be able to unravel whatever's going on in the brain that's causing that.
You know what you're talking about now? Sexual preference and orientation.
Well, I'm talking about
desires.
I'm talking about an imbalance in somebody's bio and chemical.
Like somebody with titties and a pussy saying they feel like a man. Think about it.
Hey man, we could talk about this one topic for the whole hour, man.
Hey,
All right, let's move on to another topic, because on the Streets and Scholars podcast, we've been talking about this YNW Melly case and providing our listeners and viewers with updates. And a couple weeks ago, he applied to get some dental surgery done outside of the county jail he was in. You heard about this this guy in Florida?
Yes.
And it took a couple of weeks, but the judge denied him getting outside dental treatment, man. What's your experience with trying to get medical treatment inside in custody?
I can't believe you hit me with this way ironic question, because being in custody, being in prison, and having dental issues is something I'm quite familiar with, because I've been to prison twice. And in California, when you go to prison, before you are housed in your permanent prison facility, you go through a reception process. I've been to reception twice. And both times I was in reception, I had a toothache that kept me awoke at night while everyone else was asleep, to the point where I had to go irritate and bother the night guard and beg for like aspirin. And I remember at one point it was a black CEO, older lady, who told me, "Baby, I want to give you some medicine so much, but I can't give you no medicine without da 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 da." So twice when I was in Delano, I had to have an extraction of a tooth because of pain. And I remember learning back then that was my only option. When you're in the system, they don't do nothing cosmetic or corrective. Your only option is extraction. So I went for it twice. They took my tooth out. So for you to bring that up with under the whole idea of him being in jail and need teeth work, I'm not surprised that the system don't give a guess what? You can communicate and live perfectly without zero teeth. And all they're interested in doing is housing and storage in him enough to preserve his life. So why would I be surprised them not giving about his teeth?
Well, what level of obligation does the county jail have in providing a certain level of medical treatment if you're indeed in need for it? Because apparently he's got an infection. This is just not an extraction that's needed. He needs some more additional work because he has this diamond gold grill in his mouth. That's another thing. He's got a grill in his mouth, and this infection is created by the grill.
Don't turn me into the police, because I can be the devil's advocate, right? But I know what he going through, and I know I could plead his case. I'm just going to, for the sake of the conversation, just think from the perspective of the people who are denying him access. First of all, everything you just described is based on something he said. We haven't seen a dentist report. We don't know how official his suffering even is. So I'm going from the mind frame of the officials who have the say so. Who knows why they feel comfortable for denying him? What if it's not even true? What if he got the grill on and he want to get it took off, but all the shit we hearing, what if it's not even true?
Well, what would be a reason for him to make up a level of discomfort that he's and request that he get special treatment?
Bro, I've been in prison, bro, and he a celebrity. What if he got a bitch that works at the dentist? This is a nigga that allegedly is accused of killing his best friend.
Two of them.
Two of his best friends.
Yeah.
So when you look at how extreme even that is, what if he got a bitch? Guess what? Every movie you watch that has anything to do with a breakout in prison, the breakout happens during a transfer. And he in Georgia?
Florida.
Okay. He's down south. If you look at what the lady doing in Fullerton County, Georgia, and what's going on typically down south with crime, blacks, gang, they not playing. They not playing with us. So, but why YNW Melly just because innocent until proven guilty? Free cuz. But I can understand why the system is not sympathetic toward his dental issues. However, I find it ironic that you can go to prison right now as a man and demand that get hormones from the system to help you facilitate growing breasts.
But they do all that in-house. They're not going to send you somewhere else. They bring those doctors to the facility. This is all about leaving the current custodial environment and going to another place where the county jail, they don't want to do that.
Whether it's their real concern or not, I think the technicality that they're denying them on is the risk for something to happen throughout transfer.
Yeah, it says here that YNW Melly says he has his own insurance, and his lawyers argued that they were willing to pay for all the cost of the treatment that he needs, which would include his own. They'll even pay for the transportation and even for additional security if necessary. And the judge still said no.
I know this is not what you expect to hear, but I want everybody listening to understand. When his lawyers claim that they're willing to pay, that means that nigga was in position to put some money to the side where the lawyers could come to the table with his bread like it's theirs. You want to be out here being wild and be an asshole, get your coins together. They just said, his lawyers said that they are willing to pay. I want you guys to over understand how little of a fuck his lawyers care about him and how much of their personal money they're willing to invest into his freedom. He got it cracking if his lawyers got bread to spend on his behalf, because that's his bread. That's what caught my ear with that one.
Yeah, man, I actually thought that they might approve him going to another facility because he has those diamond gold teeth in his mouth. But I think FG was like, nah, they ain't gonna approve that. They're gonna do that in-house. No special treatment for him.
And guess what? The only thing they're gonna offer him is an extraction and a removal of what he has. And that's going, I don't know if you've seen recently, they Soulja Boy got some new whites. But whoever gave him his new whites, they released some footage of the before and after. And we know before he had the new whites, he had the regular down south. That shit looked nasty up under there. Oh, my mama. And that's probably what they offering him. We'll take that shit off and leave you with what you got up under there. He wants something other than that.
Hey, but what if the county jail doctor actually says, hey, you know what? This guy does need a little bit more treatment that I can't do here. Wouldn't that hold some weight where the judge got to approve it then?
There's no such thing as gotta. What I know this from the California experience that I've had with the system, they are not obligated to do anything cosmetic whatsoever. Now, if it's gonna affect your health and your immediate comfort as far as pain, they will deal with that. But if there's something cosmetic as far as damage that you want corrected, they don't give a fuck. They feel you're doing just as well with zero teeth. It won't be hurting no more, and your teeth won't look ugly. You won't have them. They'll do that for you. And I think he doesn't want to. He's not satisfied with their remedy. But I want to say this. Let me flip it real quick.
Yeah.
Fuck all that. Get Cuz mouth right. He got high-powered lawyers. I believe if he was white, they would get him with the adequate dental service. So I believe he deserves it too. If y'all gonna clear motherfuckers going to prison and getting hormone pills to keep their femininity going on, if you go to California prison right now where there's no women and find condom machines on the wall, man, help that nigga get his mouth right. That's fucked up. That's like slavery shit.
Well, he's awaiting trial for double murder. He was supposed to go to trial earlier this year, but they've just been delays.
Innocent until. Is that real or am I sounding stupid? Is that a real thing? Are we in America?
No, we've been talking about that on here, that this is all alleged. In fact, his first attorney actually claims that the case against YNW Melly is weak and that he predicts a not guilty in this case. So
somebody I respect highly in the legal field that works on the side of defense told me recently he prefers the more difficult cases over the simple cases.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my mama. So I believe that.
Yeah.
What's the challenge is what real niggas after.
Well, yeah, I'm sure there's some attorneys that feel the same way. They love them tough cases. But, YNW Melly, he got the money. He's got the attorneys. And we can't wait for this trial to get underway to find out what happened.
And he's in a country as fair as America that says you're innocent until proven guilty. So we're going to ride with his innocence. Rest and bless the dead and all that, but cuz innocent.
No doubt. All right, I want to talk about Marc Wilson. Marc Wilson from Georgia was a brother, was dating a white girl down south. And back in 2020, he got into it with some white racist dudes. They was throwing the N-word. They was throwing the racial slurs. They was calling his white girlfriend, Emma Rigdon, a nigga lover. And he started to feel a certain kind of way. And they felt, when I say they, him and his girlfriend felt their lives were threatened. He pulled out a gun himself to try to defend himself, and in the process, he fatally shot the 17-year-old girl named Haley Hutchinson. The state of Georgia tried to give him like everything. He was looking at 100 years. He ended up being found guilty of manslaughter. So it's a win, but at the same time, the brother wasn't granted the right to defend himself and to walk away from this case without any jail time.
Bro, man, that's a loaded ass scenario, because I could look at it from a gang of different perspectives, because like you say, it's an L, because just if you think about the concept of Kyle Rittenhouse, I think that's his name, and what he went through being a minor, illegally possessing a firearm, crossing state lines, having a history of professing to want to engage in combat based on these things, and then he took lives. And we saw how the law exhausted its remedies to make sure it found room to find him guilty. Damn, like for this dude to go through what he went through, and the law to, when you take a life and only get 10 years and nobody expects you to do the entirety of the 10 years, we expect him to do less than 10 years. It's like the law and the system admitting he was justified. Because otherwise, why does he not get something comparable for the life that he took?
Well, the jury found him not guilty of first-degree murder, which is what the state was trying to give him, even though he explained what happened. His explanation was not accepted. The jury actually did not agree with the state, but they found him guilty of a lesser offense. Well, some people are saying he should have been found guilty of anything. If this was a racial attack and your life, you felt threatened, why couldn't he stand his ground?
It's because he's not George Zimmerman's pigmentation. Stand your ground only matters, because even, I know I'm getting off subject, I've done this multiple times this evening, but I think this still correlates with the subject. When you use the phrase stand your ground, I still cannot wrap my mind around the fact how a 17-year-old minor minding his business was not allowed to stand his ground against a grown man that the police advised not to pursue him. Nobody saw their initial engagement. We have to take his word on what took place, and somehow George Zimmerman's right to stand his ground precedes Trayvon Martin's. So that phrase, when I hear it, blows my mind. I don't know what that means.
It's a legal term, though. It's in about 4 or 5 different states. It is not a California. That's why it's not a California term.
But in the state where it became popularized,
that's Florida, actually.
How did Trayvon Martin's right to stand his ground disappear? We all know he was minding his business. A grown man pursued him. Law enforcement said, leave him alone. They went to a blind spot, and now we have to rely on George Zimmerman's. How do they insert him standing his? I don't get that.
Yeah.
That's how you get Christopher Dorners, bro. That's how you breed them.
Christopher Dorner.
Rest in peace to Christopher Dorner, man. Oh, mama. That's how you get him.
No, I was a little shocked at that verdict for when George Zimmerman was found not guilty. I thought he might be found guilty of something.
Something. Just like the case we're discussing. And I believe those lesser charges were included because whoever was submitting the charges knew they couldn't meet that burden of proof.
Look, that was the jury's fault. And see, remember, we were talking about juries the other day off camera. That was the jury's fault because the state of Florida charged Zimmerman. They put the trial on TV, so we saw how aggressive the prosecution was. I'm like, finally, they really...
It was on point.
It was on point. The jury came back with that verdict.
That's a reminder of where we are,
That's
y'all.
the people of the community where that happened that came back with that verdict. I can't really blame the system because the system prosecuted them. We saw the system prosecute them all on camera, and it looked like they did a damn good... Was you convinced?
Never, no.
I'm saying, was you convinced that George Zimmerman did something wrong?
Yes.
Okay, I was convinced too.
Me too.
I felt like they did a hell of a job.
Yeah, it's almost as shocking as the Rodney King first not guilty verdict.
Again, that was a jury at a Simi Valley that gave those 4 officers a pass. So I think that the juries in those instances are to blame. And even in this case with Marc Wilson, I mean, I'm glad they found him not guilty of the felony murder, which was he was facing life for. They found him not guilty of a few other charges, but they found him guilty of the involuntary manslaughter. Then the judge gave him the max for the involuntary manslaughter, which was 10 years. And it appears that this group of white dudes, this actually happened at a...
It reminds me of Ahmaud Arbery, the kind of the essence of the scenario.
Yeah, a little bit like that. But this happened at a Taco Bell in 2020 at 12:30 a.m. when a pickup truck full of white racist dudes started to intimidate Marc Wilson and his white girlfriend. I guess they felt the kind of way when they saw a brother with a white girl. I remember back in the 90s we used to call those jungle fevers.
Yeah,
that term kind of got played out. Is there a new word for that now?
I think that was the Wesley Snipes movie, huh?
Yeah, but it came popular. Jungle fever.
That played out. You just fucked me up with that jungle fever.
I used to use it all the time. I used to be like, oh, there goes a jungle fever.
Yeah, and it was at the time it was offensive, and then it was acceptable.
Well, they did a movie about it. So.
Yeah, that made it acceptable. Yeah. I haven't heard that in a long time. You're right.
But apparently this group of white guys at this Taco Bell felt the kind of way seeing this brother with a white girl. And he felt...
She must have been a hot white girl.
I saw her. She's a blonde white girl.
Pass.
Yeah, she's,
Yeah. Hot by their standards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So prosecutors really wanted to give him the max. Because the reason why they wanted to give him the max, they said there was an opportunity for him to turn around, even if everything is what we're saying is true. They threatened him, racial slurs, threats. He had an opportunity to turn around and leave. Because he didn't do that, then therefore you lose your right to self-defense. You lose your right to stand your ground. You could have retreated, but he didn't. He pulled out the strap and started dumping. And in the process, ended up killing a girl, had nothing to do with it.
And you know what? I'm going to tap out right there. Because you introduced the girl. I had a whole something I was finna say until you said the girl that had nothing to do with it.
Yeah, a 17-year-old girl named Hutchinson was sitting in the backseat of a car where Marc Wilson's bullets went into. And
she was 17 and he got 10 years?
Yeah.
He got to just take that. That's good math. He's still blessed.
He got the max on the involuntary manslaughter.
But she got the max on just sitting in the car seat. She got the max.
Yeah, she did get the max.
So he got to just be fair with the universe with that.
But in this situation, the jury did acquit him of several charges and only found him guilty of the involuntary manslaughter. So I guess...
I imagine he's somewhere he can accept that. I think he can accept that.
Yeah.
He has to be able to.
Yeah, you do, because you was looking at life.
Exactly.
You was looking at life.
And you got found guilty of eliminating a life.
How many people do you know that take the 10-year deal? Like, that's like love. Oh, I'm jumping on that 10-year deal.
I know somebody currently that I speak to on a regular basis that was offered 10 years almost 20 years ago. They didn't take it and they're still incarcerated. Y'all ask JD from the lynch mob. They offered JD 7. He didn't take it. Ended up getting 33 with an L. But he home. Welcome home. Neighborhood to the neighborhood. JD home. But it goes down, y'all. You'll be in that court system. They offer you something you don't want to take. And you act indignant. Boy, they would triple that number on you when you get found guilty. That's why so many niggas take deals. Y'all had no idea.
Yeah, I know people that take a 10-year deal with a smile on their face.
Look, what the homie say? Neighborhood to the, whoop. Oh, he's still up there.
Yeah.
That nigga say, they gave the homie 12. That was a sweet deal. That's a real statement. I remember my son-in-law asked me, like, hey, what do he mean? Do he mean that his homie got 12 years and he was happy about it? I'm like, yeah. He like, dang. And right now, that same son-in-law, he just took 10. And that was like 4 years after he asked me that question. Just Jay, head up, chest out. Oh, my mama.
Yeah, so, and this brother, Marc Wilson, already been sitting in the county jail for the last 2 years, so he's got that credit, and he'll probably be out in about 5.
Yeah, he gonna do about 5 to 6, 7 years. Yeah.
So it's a win. It's a win and a loss, because these white perpetrators that was trying to push a line on him, they created the whole situation to where the teenage girl got killed.
He should have been vindicated. And I see the law often does not expand to consider all the things that it would consider for a non. I keep thinking of Kyle Rittenhouse. I couldn't imagine nobody looked like me or you getting the outcome he got. And with the same exact scenario, same exact circumstances, you or I could not come out that courtroom with that type of outcome. I know he couldn't. So I just wish that, this brother right here that went through something traumatic where he felt his life was in danger, I wish the law would bend as much as it bended for Kyle Rittenhouse for him, bro.
Well, there was a brother in San Diego that shot and killed a police officer with the police officer's gun back in 1981. He went on trial for murder.
How'd it turn out?
Acquitted. He was acquitted. Can you believe that?
Wow.
He was acquitted. It was the biggest trial in San Diego history, all on television, and he was acquitted.
Was it technicality or?
They said that the officer was too aggressive, created the whole conflict, and created the fight to where dude felt like his life was threatened. Dude was a master at his hands, and he was a trained martial artist. So it wasn't much for him to take the gun from the cop, and kill and shoot him. But can you imagine what were the prosecutors trying to do to this brother? Yeah. He was looking at the rest of his life in prison.
I know you can't call his name off the tip of your tongue. I want to shout him out. That's hard. You know what it reminded me of the video clip I showed you earlier this evening of the police officer.
I'm sorry, I can't remember dude's name off the top of my head.
It's all good. Shout out, salute to him though.
Oh, I know his name now.
See?
Sagan Penn.
Sagan Penn.
But Sagan Penn ended up committing suicide in the early 2000, man. Sagan Penn. He went through it after he was acquitted of killing a cop. Yeah, he went through it, man. And it's crazy. I was talking to some San Diego guys, and they told me there's a line of dudes from a gang that took on the name Sagan Penn. So there's a Sagan Penn,
that's deep,
and a little Sagan and a baby Sagan. Like they use his real name.
Is it a Crip gang?
I don't remember.
Asians though?
No, they black. Sagan Penn was a brother.
Hey, rest in peace to Sagan Penn, man. I've been inspired by your indignation.
But
at the least.
I can't think of any brother that has killed a cop or done a killing like Marc Wilson did that we're talking about, and got the full exoneration. No. But Sagan Penn, he was acquitted of.
But I hate the fact that his name don't sound like a brother.
I know, huh?
Just with his name, I thought we was talking about an Asian. I forgot you told me we was talking about a brother the whole time, but his name throw you off.
Sagan Penn. So if anybody out there knows of any, case that I don't know about where a brother, was fighting for his life and the jury came back in full acquittal.
Well, I know for a time where he was off duty, but someone was killed by his love interest, and he was an officer, and she beat it based on domestic violence testimony that wasn't documented prior to this evening though. She just convinced the jury that he used to whoop my ass, and she beat it, and she killed the police, but it was off duty. They was going together. They was from Compton. I'm familiar with a scenario like that. But yeah, it's hard to beat that blue shield, if not impossible. And I'm not surprised to hear about one incident. And that one incident we hear about, look how unique the name is, Sagan Penn.
Sagan Penn.
Sagan Penn, yeah.
His trial was actually in 1987 for killing a cop in 1984, and he committed suicide in 2002. So, unfortunate, man.
That's deep.
Yeah.
How did he commit suicide?
I don't know the specifics.
Okay.
But 80% of men commit suicide by firearm.
And that's why I'm so shocked that they would even suggest that the Winston Hills driver, female, has suicide on her mind. Like, who would think I'm gonna drive my car into that? Blows my. I didn't mean to switch.
Well, women are a little bit more diverse with the methods of suicide. It could be pills, slitting your wrist. Not too many men slit their wrists or commit suicide. It's mostly a bullet to the dome.
So, what's the most effective ways proven through the years?
A bullet to the dome through the mouth, though. Because sometimes the bullet will ricochet off your skull if you don't got the angle right. But
shout out OG Suicide from Lantana 3D, because he shot himself in the head and experienced that, survived.
And survived it.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Wait, you ain't tapped in with OG Suicide?
Nah, I ain't tapped in with him.
because of your catalog and repertoire, he need to be on your list. I'm gonna tap you in.
Oh yeah, for sure. So yeah, man, I'm always interested in these cases where brothers get completely exonerated, because it's not that often that a black man could be sitting there in front of the system and walk away from the whole thing, especially killing a cop like Sagan Penn did, but even just killing a white person.
Shout out OJ.
That OJ, killing a white person like Marc Wilson did. Yeah, OJ is a good example of that. But I can't really put him in this category because, one, he's a celebrity. Two, he had a lot of money, and three, he lived his life not really like a black man in his older years.
Wait,
you know what I'm saying?
Are you guys like a white Amarada? Did he?
Yes. Yeah. He's class of 1969. I'm class of 1995.
Oh yeah, okay. He's a little from a different generation, but yeah.
And I saw the shift because I was at USC before the murder, but I graduated after it. I got to SC in 93. None of this happened. This happened in 94. I graduated in 95. So I saw the whole shift, how SC wanted to distance himself. I used to go to the football game. Check this out. We go to the football game. They hang all the banners for Heisman Trophy winners on the wall. All of them. There's like 7 or 8 of them. OJ's just one of them. After that all happened, whenever they hung the banners, they didn't hang OJ's anymore. They could not hang O.J. Simpson.
You know what I hate? I hate this. We all have to tap out to the system. Guilty is not guilty. Not guilty is not guilty. He got not guilty, but he's still guilty in public eye to it. I've never seen nobody still be guilty, even though it's not guilty, as much as I think they utilize the fact that he was found liable in a civil suit.
Yeah. I believe he's actually not guilty of that murder. A lot of experts believe that he had nothing to do with it because there were 2 sets of footprints in that blood. There was evidence pointing to other people, but the media did a terrible job at being objective when it came to the O.J. Simpson trial. And I blame Marta Waller from KTLA Channel 5 News, because she was covering the story, but she seemed to just despise O.J. So that's not that the viewer's not getting an unbiased reception of the information.
Forget about all the Mark Furman implications as well. Yeah.
All right. Well, shout out to Marc Wilson. He's gonna have to do his dime.
You'll be back.
But he should be back shortly.
Yep.
He's not going to do the whole thing. I want to talk about Nicole Linton. This is the girl that drove her car.
That's what I was just talking.
Was that La Brea and Slauson? And they actually got the data from her Mercedes-Benz, and they got that she was driving at 122 miles an hour. There's only been a handful of times I took my Escalade and pressed it to about 100. Just a couple times, and you flying when you're at the 122 miles an hour.
Yeah, I received a DUI in the recent years doing over 100 in a truck as large as an Escalade. And even in a small vehicle, once you get over 80 miles an hour, your actual connection and control of the vehicle, it changes. You have to mentally be ready to go to another level of risk when you go over those speeds. And the fact that she entered that intersection doing those numbers of speeds, I often from day one thought that she had to be not in her right mind. And of course, you typically assume drugs, alcohol. I was shocked to find out that recently they determined that she had neither in her system.
Correct. And it's all a mental illness. In fact, let me play this little clip because the reason why we're talking about it, because she's back in the news because of her sister trying to bring some awareness to mental illness.
I saw that.
Charged in the deaths of 5 people and an unborn baby in a fiery crash in Windsor Hills last month is speaking out. They created a new website to tell their side of the story. KKL9's Leslie Marin is live in Windsor Hills with what they are saying in that. Leslie.
Pat, well, the family of Nicole Linton says they started this website to answer questions about who she is and her struggles with mental health, but they also have questions of their own, like if she's being treated fairly in the court of law and also in the court of public opinion. They say they haven't spoken out until now because they want to respect the victims and their families. And you can see behind me, this memorial still sits here for them at Slauson and La Brea. For the first time, the family of Nicole Linton is opening up in a website titled Nicole's Story. Let's talk about mental health. The website, created by Linton's older sister, Camille, starts off with sharing remorse for the 6 victims and their families. I hope the families affected by the tragedy don't feel as if we're trying to have Nicole absolved from any sort of accountability. What we want is to make sure that whatever the rule of law is for situations like this is applied fairly to Nicole's case, she writes. The site details 37-year-old Linton's upbringing, the youngest of 6 kids from Jamaica. It shares her journey and struggles as a travel nurse, including the stress her family feels contributed to her struggles with mental health and her first manic episode in 2018. What people must understand is that over 90% of our interaction with Nicole has been normal, and even when she is manic, it has never been anything that would cause us to believe she was a danger to herself or other people. Not once in the past 4 years was I ever worried that something like what happened on August 4th could happen. Her sister does write about the day of the crash, saying she got a call 4 minutes before it happened that Nicole was having a manic episode. When I see that video, I don't see Nicole driving. I see her mental illness driving.
Me too.
Her sister writes. Prosecutors say new evidence from the Mercedes-Benz Linton was driving on August 4th shows she was driving 130 miles per hour with the gas pedal floored when she went through the red light at La Brea and Slauson on August 4th. Linton now faces 6 murder charges. On the site, her family questioning if the charges are fair. Why is it that one of the most compassionate people I know, someone who dedicated her life to helping people and suffering from a mental illness, is being charged with murder, they question. But back at the site of tragedy, a memorial grows for the 6 victims, including mother Asheray Ryan, her unborn son, and the youngest victim, her 11-month-old son, Alonso Quintero.
All right, we got the point there.
Hoo-wee.
That was from
Complex.
That's local news, Los Angeles. That was KCAL 9, and man, I have mixed feelings on that, man. What's your whole feeling about that, Spider?
My feelings are mixed as well because, you know, first of all, you have to start off with sympathy toward those that lost their life and their loved ones, like especially those that did nothing to contribute toward it. We start off there, and then initially, you know, you get the reports of what took place. You see the video, reckless, you know, negligent, evil. That's easy to come up with that conclusion. But when you think about it and you realize that she was a nurse and the things she had accomplished in her life and the things that we generally know, it's kind of hard for me to realize someone to stretch to that point to intentionally do something of that nature. But it's still, I was lost in limbo to have nothing else to go with. I kind of like accepted, understood it to be somebody that just derangedly, you know, took a decision to do something so terrible. I kind of feel refreshed. God bless the dead. Condolences, rest in peace to all those involved. But at the same time, I feel refreshed to hear such a sensible, logical explanation to give us an idea of what would it take place for why we would have to experience such tragedy versus someone just deciding to be evil. It makes a lot more sense to me right now.
Well, I think the sister is doing a great job at trying to bring some awareness to her sister that's currently in jail. Camille Linton is the one that drove that car so recklessly, and I think she's trying to strategize her legal defense in terms of trying to get the jury to understand that this was not murder. This was not intentional. She was going through an episode, and hopefully look at a lesser offense for my sister. I think that's what the ultimate goal is.
I agree, and I believe that if there is any like hope or trust or faith we could put in our legal system, I believe that she has a good chance with coming out with that type of understanding from a jury. If our jury system is really designed to analyze what actually took place and give you a fair shot, I think it would be very difficult to decide that this woman just decided for whatever reason to not only attempt to end or risk her life, but to just decide to do something so reckless that would affect so many lives so negatively. To paint her as an individual that would just willingly do that, I think is very more practical to arrive at a conclusion that against her will, she wasn't really in control of her facilities or her faculties the way, you know, we typically would be. I believe she was suffering for something that was beyond her control, and I believe, as much as it's hard to accept, she may deserve just as much sympathy as the outright victims that were present in that intersection.
Well, I know that they're hitting her with not only the vehicular manslaughter, but they're also given the option for the jury to pick murder. And with murder, there's this word that the prosecutors like to throw around.
Motive?
It's illegal. No, malice. You got to have malice to show first degree murder. Malice meaning, and I got a quick little definition here: the intention or desire to do evil, ill will. That's usually like a first degree murder. You intending to do. I don't think there's malice here with Miss Camille Linton, and I'm not, no disrespect to the victims of this tragic situation, but in order to give her murder, I believe you got to have malice.
I definitely don't see murder in the sense of intentional or malice at all.
Here's another definition: wrongful intention, especially as increasing the guilt of certain offenses. That's a weird legal definition. But malice is a word that's often thrown around in these murder cases. Malice is defined as bad will or the desire to do bad things to another person. An example of malice is when you hate someone and want to seek revenge. This woman was going through an episodic mental issue that eliminates malice.
That definition will definitely aid in her defense. That I don't believe you can pin her as being in that mind frame. Who can she even identify in the intersection that she was upset with?
Yeah, I think the prosecution is going to have a tough time trying to get that murder conviction. But if you just go off the emotions of it, man, I'm looking at the Facebook page of Nicole Linton, the sister, and all 90% of the comments are like, she needs to go to prison. She needs to go to jail. F all of this. I mean, the public opinion is completely against
You and I were having
Nicole
a
Linton.
conversation earlier off this subject, and I was telling you, I realized, even though we know the court system says that in order to be found guilty, the jury should be, you're supposed to be able to prove somebody's guilt beyond a reasonable shadow of a doubt.
Beyond a reasonable doubt, for sure.
That is what the terminology states. However, reality is you don't have to prove anything in the court. All you actually have to do is convince the jurors one way or the other. And please, listeners, listen close. There is a big difference in proving something to be true and convincing the person that's listening to you that it's true. The difference is this simple. I could be talking to Alex right now and say, man, I got $2,000 in my pocket. He could be convinced based on the fact that I said it, the fact that I held my pocket up and showed him a knot. He could like, oh, SPI got 2 bands in his pocket. But unless I show it to you, I haven't proved that. And in court, even though we know the principle of court is proof, 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 and everybody accepts that, the actual reality in court is it's not about proof. It's about convincing the jury. And you don't have to prove anything to convince someone. I could convince this nigga right now that it's $1 million waiting on us outside. He could be totally convinced of that it's true without me proving it. And that's the small line in court that I think a lot of people miss. It's not about proving, which it's supposed to be. It's about convincing. And when you think about it, like we discussed, when you get to a court system, the judge, the lawyers involved, even the bailiffs have gone through some system of training, education, and they dedicated their life to this process. And then the people who are called upon to make the most important decisions are casual people who have a very loose understanding of the procedure of law. And I think that makes our justice system more Mickey than anything else, bro. Oh, mama.
Hey, if you just go off the emotion of it, I think a jury will find her guilty of everything because of the emotion. But if you got some you got jurors there that are going to look at the law, strictly look at the
She
law.
needs an all-white jury.
Yeah.
She needs an all-white because everyone that lost their life was us.
Yeah, I don't think the race is even an issue here.
No, it always is an issue.
Well, this is a car accident.
Yeah, and guess who typically gets found? While we get found in being charged with certain crimes, I'm going on a limb guessing. I'm glad you're doing research. Who gets charged with these type of crimes more often?
No, I agree with you.
This their type of crime.
Yeah, I agree. Race is often is an issue that we got to deal with in the justice system when trying to defend certain cases. But I think this might be a case that race does not have an impact.
This is why I say it does. Like you said, you're reading the comments and they saying she needs to be in jail, right?
Yeah.
That sentiment is coming from people who can relate to the fact of our babies died, our sister died, our cousin died. Guess who Karen is? Karen is the person who can't quite deal with the world. She takes pills, she's stressed out, she drinks, she gets in her car, she does something reckless. And Karen typically finds herself in this position. And the court and the jury will be real sympathetic to Karen. I think it would serve her best to have less people who look like the victims on the jury versus those who don't and look more like people who typically get charged with these type of crimes, who understand the pressures of life, who understand she was driving and her boyfriend just told you, I don't want to be with you no more. It's the end of the world. She's going to benefit from people who can see a broader perspective other than like some innocent black people lost their life. The average non-melanated people in America don't really get moved by that concept.
I feel you on most of what you're saying, but I think that there's a slight chance because I was sitting in the Eric Holder trial. Judge was black, prosecutor was black, defense attorney was black, the court reporter was black, the detective that sat next to the prosecutor, Detective Cedric Washington, was black. I was like, this is if I had to go on trial, this is exactly how I want my courtroom to look. Right. Even though the prosecutor was black, the prosecutor's job is to put Eric Holder in the basement. But other than that, him being black, I feel better with a black prosecutor.
Yeah, I mean,
because he understands to a certain degree.
I wish you would have used any other example because when you talking about a case that was on camera.
I ain't never seen an all-black courtroom like that before. All black.
How many murders have you seen start and finish on camera? The whole thing. So it don't matter. I don't care if the whole court was purple.
But what I'm saying is Eric can't say, I got an unfair trial. But I got railroaded because of race.
No, what Eric has to accept that his trial was just for show. Nigga, you on camera. It was already...
Yeah, it was a formality.
Your lawyer, everybody agreed you need to go to jail, Eric. Everybody involved. You was already guilty before it started, Eric. Everything was a formality. That was a Hollywood production.
But you know what? The same sentiments are on these comments about Nicole Linton driving that car in there. There's no sympathy for Nicole Linton.
And that's where, humanity is going to prevail. They're going off of emotion in the initial reports. I was glad to hear this perspective presented because I wanted to hate her as well. But if we believe that humanity is vulnerable as much as we think, a woman that wasn't black right now, we would be open to consider every possibility in the world.
Okay, so
even malfunction, we would be considering maybe there was a malfunction. Nobody even mentions that.
I actually did on earlier episode of Streets and Scholars. I told FG we don't know if the accelerator was malfunctioning or the brake didn't work.
But not only would an effective lawyer be bringing those issues up, but anybody outside of our general culture would normally just, hey, maybe that. They would consider that, bro.
Yeah.
So I want to say condolences and rest in peace to those that lost their life and affected, but I also want to say God bless Miss Lady who's being charged with this too. I gotta say that for her.
I can tell you this, that the boyfriend or the husband to the girl that was pregnant, to him, this is an unforgivable act. We were talking about unforgivable acts earlier.
Even if the act is an accident.
When the emotion is involved, I'm almost certain that this man who lost his woman and his unborn child, it doesn't even matter to him.
This is how you just took me deep, because if that's the case, and to some type of intelligence level, we can agree she was out of control. So does all that transfer to the God that we talk about at some point? If this lady could not stop what she was going through, no matter how hard she tried, and the loss that the parents experienced, the hate that is warranted, who has to hold that? The woman who couldn't control herself or her creator? Who are they really justified in hating?
But some people ain't even gonna buy that story.
That's me, you, and I.
Yeah.
But if we have to accept that they're angry like that, we can't forgive you. Is their anger directed appropriately, or should it be elsewhere?
Well, there are people that start to question God when stuff like this happens. There are people like, God, why?
Guess what?
You know
who is the most public person I saw take that position recently? Ari Spears. I saw that nigga do an interview where he talk about similar what we talking about. And he start explaining where this when he start thinking about really like it can't be no God. And you see what he just went through. I look, similar, RG3. I saw that. RG3 was at a press conference at one point, and you can see him, this footage of him about to take the podium, and he has on a t-shirt. And the t-shirt says, KNOW, God, no God. But the N and the O, the colors are different than the other letters. So not only does it say no God, it also says N-O God.
there is no God.
Yeah. And you can see like somebody's at the podium, he's standing, he's about to be next. He has the shirt on, you can read it. But it shows by the time he got up on the mic, he had his shirt turned inside out. Swear to God. After he did that, he broke a knee, a leg, every day. Look, I swear to God, this nigga, I don't know this nigga now. I think he was on the, Arian Foster, running back for the Houston Texans. Swear to God, this nigga did some he came out of nowhere, gave this atheist type speech. Nigga, that nigga was at practice or training 2 days later, just doing jumping jacks, fell over, bop, whole ankle, whole career over with.
I didn't know Arian was atheist.
As soon as he announced it, though.
He interviewed me on his podcast a couple years ago.
Shout out to Aaron. I feel more comfortable associating as an agnostic. You call yourself atheist, you a bold, bad motherfucker, boy.
Well, there are going to be a lot of people questioning God, but a lot of the
I question too.
Well, yeah. Well, a lot of the criticism that I was reading in these comments are like, look, if she had issues, if she had problems, sister Camille, then why didn't you guys address this prior? Why didn't you get her into treatment prior? You guys are saying you knew about this problem before. This is not new information. So a lot of people are upset, like she's a weapon and you guys didn't do anything about her.
So, I mean, typically the court considers lifestyle, patterns, your past. What else is it about her that would tend us to believe that she's willing to not only risk taking her life, but let me just take a chance and kill what else about her? It seems more practical and logical that she was suffering from something that she had no control over.
But the family knew about this. Even they probably would never predict she would go this hard, but they knew she had problems.
That's also going to aid in her defense.
How so?
Because it's already documented she's been imbalanced mentally. That is a defense. People who are 100% guilty take the legal tactic of claiming mental imbalance. And when I want to keep highlighting and pointing out, when it's not us, the court over-considers those possibilities.
Well, I think she got some action.
I believe she do.
I don't think she's going to be looking at all these maximum murder. And then, you know what's interesting? They also charged her. There's 5 adults died, 1 unborn baby. So she's got 5 counts of vehicular manslaughter, but she's got 6 counts of murder because in California law, you're allowed to charge murder for a fetus, but you can't charge it for the vehicular.
Oh, because abortion laws didn't affect California. So even a fetus still ranks out here in California, even though it doesn't rank.
Yeah, I wonder how many states actually will give you the double murder. Remember Scott Peterson? He killed his wife years ago, allegedly. He's on death row. But they charged him with 2 murders.
Can I tell you something about Scott Peterson?
What's that?
He's currently in San Quentin. He's, like you say, he's in jail for allegedly being violent and murdering women. Scott Peterson receives more mail than any other death row inmate, and the letters are all coming from women. His not because he's famous and rich. His books are overflowing because of women supporters and contributors.
Well, he's also like, he's one of those all-American looking white boys too. So a lot of women kind of look at him as a cool person to correspond with.
Yeah, but they're like, what he's been charged and found guilty with.
He killed his wife, though.
They say, the system says.
And I bring him up only because Lacey Peterson was pregnant, so they gave him 2 bodies. They charged him with 2 bodies. They even had a name, which is crazy. They had a name for the unborn child during the trial, so they humanized the fetus. So I mean, I was like, wow, this dude is going down.
And currently, right now, at San Quentin State Prison, they have a mail bag that comes to the building, and they have a Scott Peterson bag. He gets equivalent mail to all the other. He has a cult following of women that don't give a fuck about nothing we talking about.
Ted Bundy, I believe, had a nice following too, and he was a serial killer. He killed like 15, 16 people.
Manson as well.
Allegedly,
exactly.
Because I never dug into the Scott Peterson case.
Of course.
All right, let's talk about this final topic, man, because FG and I spoke about the Tiffany Haddish, Aries Spears thing. I got to say that FG watched the video. I didn't watch it, and FG said the video was disgusting.
Yeah,
it was disgusting.
I don't imagine any real man, any real human being with integrity could watch it twice. I watched it out of curiosity just to make sure I had a basis on what everybody was reacting to, and I kind of went into it expecting it not to be as bad as I thought it was going to be, and it was worse than I thought it was going to be.
Well, I don't want to go into the whole description of the video. I'd rather you listeners tap into that. Would have been about 2 episodes ago. We break down that whole video, but the two minors in that video filed a lawsuit. That's a 2014 video. They filed the lawsuit 2022, and the two minors were unidentified. They were Jane Doe and John Doe, and they filed a civil lawsuit against Tiffany Haddish and Aries Spears just 2 weeks ago. But just a few days ago, that whole lawsuit has been they settled and they dismissed the case.
Good.
So that means that Tiffany Haddish and Aries Spears somehow scrounged up some money together and paid these 2 people off, and they ended the case.
Shout out to Kevin Hart.
Oh, shoot.
They keep kicking your sister ball around. You finally had to make a real play. I got to respect you for doing your damage control and stepping up when it was needed. However, I am also going to assert that there must have been a bag and a gag order in place to cease this whole situation, because anybody that saw that footage, there is no way to justify Tiffany Haddish or the boy Spears, whatever his name is.
Aries
Spears having this young boy in his underoos, cocking his legs wide open.
I think he was 7 years old at the time.
7 years old, getting in the tub with him, oiling one another down. Everything that they did to try to bring about the idea, they would have did better finding a 21-year-old person that could pretend to be a kid and make it comedy. It was extremely distasteful and disgusting. I don't give a fuck how you try to represent it and look at it. So the fact that it disappeared, I know, or I assume, believe, allegedly, her big brother, Kevin Hart, that's so concerned with her ball getting kicked over the fence, stepped in. I don't know if you saw a True Story with Wesley Snipes and Kevin Hart. It's a production they did that's streaming right now. Go check it out on Netflix. But even though it's fiction, Kevin then turned into the character because that character was breaking bread to try to make up for a lot of bullshit that was happening. And I'm pretty sure Kevin, he did what he could, because other than that, ain't nobody in the world can justify the fact that they had that little boy in the tub with his underoos on. They had, look, it's not even a girl. Listen to me, y'all. They had this little boy in his tidy whiteys, but they was green. You know, typically when you think about inappropriate activity with boys, you think about rear entrance. They had this little boy on the floor on his back with his legs cocked wide open like he was getting a pass smear. And he had the other nigga, Aries Spears, was looking through some newspaper with the holes cut out. So they giving you split screen of what, you look at Aries Spears, you just see a comedy nigga with some newspaper. But when you cut, you see this little boy on the floor doing all these weird ass, cause that shit is sick, cuz. They lucky them niggas they ain't got no parents that's coming to hunt y'all down.
Well, you know, the mom was actually a part of why that took place in the first place. But the mom, apparently, in the lawsuit, the kids say that they didn't have enough knowledge to tell the mom at that time. The boy was 7, the girl was about 14, that they were uncomfortable with it. So some blame has to go to this unknown mother as well for even putting your 2 kids in this position. Or maybe the mom didn't really know what it was going to be until it was done, you know.
We typically want to give everybody the benefit of the doubt, but if we just look at the reality of everything, we know that Kim Kardashian mama she produced or orchestrated, arranged, heard it, porno. You feel me? So as much faith as we want to put in the natural orientation of parenting, bro, it's not really there. So we should be beyond being shocked with what a parent is capable of doing.
Well, TMZ bumped into Tiffany Haddish a couple days ago at the airport, and this is what she had to say after this case has been dismissed. Take a listen.
Let's see what her PR team came up with.
I know that was probably a stressful thing.
You think?
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. Do you feel like, you know, that there could be some damage done, you know, to the career, you know, after this? Because it's behind you now, but like, is that something?
Oh, I lost everything.
Like,
all my gigs gone.
Really?
Everything gone.
So I mean, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, that's a bad look. But now that they changed face, you know,
I
do you
don't
feel
know,
like
bro.
you regain your?
I don't have no job.
There you go. She's claiming that she lost her gigs and she's currently not working because of this civil lawsuit that is now dismissed. What do you think? She'll be able to bounce back, huh?
Oh, she already has bounced back. You can tell what she said was prepared. I'm already aware that the majority of TMZ encounters with these celebrities are prearranged. So she didn't even take the time to go through a process of being worried. She has a lot of confidence in her response. I think it's all the plays in motion. It's no big thing. Like you say, this childhood is being victim in this environment is not nothing new. I believe she's going to be protected because her not being protected leaves a lot of more people vulnerable to being exposed. So she'll be all right. They're gonna run that play for her.
I think that they are going to seal this case, so we are not going to know the specifics of any settlement. But I'm guessing that they had to give these 2 youngsters that are now the boy is actually still a minor. He's 14 or 15 now. The girl is in her early 20s. They had to break her off at least a minimum $500,000, maybe more. I don't know, but it definitely took some money to end this case just in 2 weeks.
I hate to admit that I know us. We settle quick. So the lower end of what you're suggesting is probably what it was. But yeah, I'm pretty sure they went up there substantially, made a offer. And just imagine, and I hate to admit it, the parents probably were in a vulnerable position, not really realizing what potentially could be at stake. And they bid anything like that. Yeah, anything 6 figures, they gonna buy it.
Well, there were some allegations that this was an extortion attempt, but these 2 kids definitely had a case of something that was forced upon them when they were minors that they were very uncomfortable about today.
There is no one upon the face of the earth that call themselves having any scruples or integrity that can watch that video and feel comfortable about the way these adults are interacting with this child. It does not exist. You either have to be a creep or you have to be absent of normal common sense or intelligence to not realize that was inappropriate. It was totally inappropriate.
Yeah, I don't think Tiffany Haddish is, she's not denying it. She said on her Instagram that clearly while this was a sketch, was intended to be comedic, it wasn't funny at all, and I deeply regret having agreed to act in it. So she's basically admitting it was kind of foul what we did.
She should have been, or her team should have been wise enough to add that. I would like to add that all my scenes were recorded outside of seeing this young boy in the tub. And she should have I came and shot my scenes. I had no idea what they shot outside of my presence. She should have added that into her statement.
Well, I'm sure that her and Ari Spears, who hasn't said anything about it, it's done, man. It's over. I've never seen a case get filed and then closed that quickly, literally, but like 2 weeks.
I don't believe Eric could afford it, and I don't believe Tiffany could out of her own bag. So maybe Common and Kevin came up with some cash together because I believe they both have some concern about her better interests. But associated with this case, there's a video that popped up with Ari Spears with another man. He has a rainbow wristband on. Have you seen that video?
I heard about it, but I had no desire to go seek it out and watch it.
You don't want to see it, but it's exactly what you don't want to see, bro.
But is it another comedy skit?
It seems slightly comedic, very slightly. Regardless of how comedic it is actually too much of what it is, bro. Fuck all that. I gotta show it to you. You gotta see. Cause they're fully clothed. Well, it's not like extra out, but it's extra out. I'm gonna show you. It's not like, why you showing me that? You'll see.
Well, it sounds like that Ari Spears' career has taken a couple of bumps in the road. I reached out to him before all of this happened because I wanted to have him on the platform, but he never did respond. But I see him popping up on various platforms. So I'm still willing to sit down and have a one-on-one with you, Ari Spears, if you're listening, Street TV.
The homie, man. Me personally, bro, I'm starting to lose faith in everything.
I actually thought the brother was real funny, man. I used to watch him.
What? Me too.
I used to watch him on a couple of his stand-ups. I'm like, oh, this guy got it.
But you know what I also learned about comedians from our culture? It seems like to be a successful comedian, you have to be fluent and very inclusive and embracing of that type of. If you can't be both, it seems like you can't be a successful black comedian unless you can be a good female. If you're a male, you also have to be able to be a good, funny female in order to be successful. I think this shit right here. Let me see. That's taking too long.
All right.
Fuck it. Oh, here it go. Right here. Here it go, Alex.
Ari Spears exposed by Lizzo fans. Released a video of him kissing a man. Here's the video.
One man, and this be my man. When I say my man, you really my man.
All right. I done seen
You can
enough.
tell he playing, but who plays like that?
Yeah.
I don't care what's around, what check is on the table. Who would do that, bro?
Yeah, he actually kissed the dude real quick on the lips.
While he was mounted by that man from behind in a full straddling position, oiling him down. Come on. And he had a rainbow wristband on.
Yeah, well, before we wrap this episode up with Streets and Scholars, I want to ask you about, what do you think about black comedians that sometimes get in a dress to do skits? Because there are some comedians that will refuse to do that. I think Dave Chappelle is one of them. Whoa. So there's no way you getting me in a dress. But there's others that just jump in that dress, going all the way back to the Flip Wilson days to Jamie Foxx.
Well, you mentioned some very key names associated with that subject. I was born in 1976. The first time Flip Wilson wore a dress on TV was about 1970. I really associate my whole experience as a public figure similar to what Moses went through being raised in Egypt. I'm not going to get to that. What I just recently went through, because it's seeing Kevin Hart being questioned as a young up-and-coming comedian about, are there any limits you wouldn't cross for success in Hollywood? And he's like, oh, yeah, you have to have your limits. And if somebody asked him about in particular, they're like, so would you ever wear a dress? He's like, oh, no, of course not. He's like, I would never wear a dress. You got to know your limits as a comedian. You got to know where they stand. I would never wear a dress. He said, I've never been approached with anything like that. He said, but today they asked me to dribble a basketball. I thought that was stupid, so I didn't do it. So, of course, I'm not the one. And immediately after that, they flashed this nigga in a dress on a motherfucking show, like a Saturday Night Live. It's like, this is what it is. He is like the epitome of success, mainstream, entertainment, black. And we have him when he was not that, claiming he would never wear a dress. We have evidence of him wearing the dress. And after that, he skyrocketed to the epitome, the ultimate success level. So you explain to me other than what it looks like. It's just like P&B Rock, rest in peace, came to LA. He has interviews saying, hey, I was in LA, I was with my BM. Some niggas pressed up on me. I kind of finessed my way out of it. She like, oh, let's stop down the street. He like, but he stopped. The same niggas put up on me again. It went bad. He got out of that. Oh, I took this he took her phone for months. The day she get her phone back, they on the east side, she posted location. The bullshit happened. Do you realize the majority of the online audience is saying she could not have had nothing to do with it? They ignoring the signs. I refuse to ignore the signs in either situation. That's all I'm saying.
So how was back to the comedians, black comedians specifically, wearing dresses? Is that a sign of anything?
Bro, Dave Chappelle, we hear his testimony about the dress. And we saw when he refused, he went through almost 10 years of exile.
Yeah.
Kevin Hart claimed, I would never wear one. He wore one and went through 10 years of unexplanatory success in the exact same system. You can lead a horse, a cow, a dog to the water, anybody. You can't force them. How much clearer does it have to be? If they equally, look, neither of them are the black kind of comedian. They're not Cedric the Entertainer. They're not Cat Williams. They are the crossover type comedian, both of them, in their own right. Kevin and Chappelle.
Kevin is super mainstream, though.
Chappelle is as well, until he started taking on these issues, cultural issues.
Man, I was watching the Chappelle show 20 years ago. He was playing crack addicts. He was doing all kind of crazy shit that I wouldn't necessarily put in the mainstream category.
But he wasn't doing it on BET. He was doing it on
Comedy Central.
Yeah. He was doing it for them. And even though it looked coonish, it was high profile because of the entity he was doing it for. And if you had to right now cast for top line elite black comedians, Chappelle and Kevin Hart, they're equal except for the fact that Kevin Hart turned himself into an activist. If he would come back from even what he went through with going to Africa and all that, and not come with all these specials that turned out not to be comedic specials, but speeches that were awoke, I think he would be equal with Kevin Hart right now as far as opportunity and all that. He chose to be the burden of being a person like almost a Colin Kaepernick in his own right.
So do you think that Kevin Hart is worth more than Dave Chappelle right now?
You know, I'm not a pocket watcher, but just being objective, yes.
I'm gonna look that up for next week's episode. We'll let everybody that's listening on Streets and Scholars know who's worth more. I don't know, but I think Dave.
I don't know either.
Yeah,
I just took a guess based on the fact that I was put on the spot.
But I think that Dave Chappelle made a hell of a comeback. He never jumped in the dress, and he's definitely worth tens of millions of dollars.
And Cat Williams never jumped in the dress. Salute both of y'all.
Yeah, and I think Cat Williams would be definitely a bigger superstar if he kind of laid off some of the other extracurricular activities.
Perhaps so.
Yeah.
I believe his affiliation and association with One Marion Knight was not scheduled correctly either. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm going to appreciate you for sitting in for FG on this episode of Streets and Scholars, man. I want everybody to tap into the Black Box.
Please do.
But then also tap into the podcast, Facts Over Feelings.
Please do.
Which is on all podcast platforms. And what else you want to let the people know before we wrap this up?
Just keep it a Google and remember that gratitude is the attitude, and that is what I push. GITA, that's an acronym, GITA. Gratitude is the attitude. It can always be better, but just remember it can always be worse.
And make sure you look me up at Alex Alonso 101 on all social media platforms. Hit me up on YouTube at Street TV. If you're listening on Apple or iTunes, make sure you leave a rating and review. Send us a comment. And thanks for listening to another fire episode of Streets and Scholars.